Hi, thank you so much for joining me today for day 27 of 30 Days of Sketches with Christie's Beautiful Life, round 10. And today the sketch has been created by Sarah Scraps. So I'm using ARToptions Alena for this, and you saw the sketch at the beginning. Sarah has used a photo with some mixed media, a circle with some mixed media in the middle of it. So I've just used one of our side plates to draw a circle around the centre of my paper, which I'm just rubbing out there now. And then I use my sewing machine with some blue thread, variegated blue thread, to stitch a very wonky circle around, which you will have seen. I cut some of it out because it's pretty boring watching all of that. And these are photos of my aunt, my mum and my daughter on a recent workshop with Liz Cooksey that I took them to, partially to celebrate Sue's 80th birthday, which is coming up in February. It was a really fabulous day that we all had together, and that's Sue's creation there on the right hand side. So I've just matted the 3 photos on white cardstock, which seems to be my favourite method at the moment, and I've pulled out one of the 6x8 papers from the ARToptions Alena collection from 49er Market, and I'm using that as the photo mat down the left hand side. Now I've cut it slightly smaller than the photos because I want the photos to overlap. They're going to be mounted on foam. I like the way that looks, so just working out the positioning. You can see they're overlapping to the left, and then I'm going to add some layers. So first of all, using the reverse of that same paper to tear a strip to add that, and then I shall continue to build with any scraps that I've got left from this collection. I always try and use my scraps first wherever I can, so this is what I'm doing. So this piece was from one of the 12x12 papers that I used on a previous layout, and I'm just using this rounded notebook edger punch from EK Success to punch some shapes down the side, just to add a bit of dimension and texture to the layout. So that's that done, and I shall rough those up in due course. And then just taking these tiny pieces to see where I can layer those into the cluster of papers. I suppose photo mat, isn't it really? So first of all, I want to distress the edges of this paper because I want to start gluing everything down. It's very difficult to build a photo mat with such thin pieces without having stuck things down in the first instance. So just checking that I'm happy. And at first I thought I was going to stick them down just with double-sided tape, but I decided actually I prefer to use some foam pads to raise them up, again just to make them the focal point of the layout. So just using one foam pad in the middle of the photo. It's got plenty of structure because it's matted onto that white cardstock as well. So the one foam pad will be enough for it to hold. Just fiddling about a little bit to check that I'm happy with the placement. I wanted them slightly offset so they're not quite straight down that piece, and then roughing up the edges of this piece first, the torn piece, before sticking that underneath. And again, I'm going to stick all these onto the photos and keep them loose from the backing because I want to add some mixed media inside that circle like Sarah's sketch. So you can see there I just added a little bit too much double-sided tape, so if you just carefully peel it down with your nails. These papers from 49er Market are so sturdy. They've got ever such a slightly waxy finish to them, so it's very easy to peel the tape back down. So just using my fingernail to rough up the edges of this notebook strip before I stick that down. And then wet glue for this because it's quite a thin piece. And then I'll just continue to build the layers. So using this little offcut, that was from the top of the original photo mat, and that will just be tucked in there at the back. And I love building these layers to build height. It's great fun and it really adds something. So here's another little offcut. This was from that notebook strip that we've got there. So just roughing up the edges, and then that will go down the bottom. And all these tiny scraps really do add something to this lovely photo mat. I was really pleased with it when it was finished. another offcut from a 12 by 12. I think this is from a 12 by 12 paper. So again, just distressing the edges, and then that will go behind that notebook piece. And you'll see I'm layering these all up. They're not going in the middle of each of the pieces. They're being layered up. It doesn't really matter what length they are. And it's just bringing all the different colours in. As you can see from Sue's creation, she did use all the colours. It's beautiful and bright. And finally this peach piece. Now, at first I was going to use that big 12 by 12, but then I found a smaller piece that was an offcut, so I'm using that again, tearing the edge like I did on that pale blue one. And this will be the final layer on this photo mat here. So again, just gluing it down with the wet glue. Seem to have abandoned the double-sided tape here. Wet glue is much quicker though. And then just distressing the top bit there. I'm not entirely happy with that flat piece there, but you will see I'll find a way around that later on. Just getting rid of all that dust. That's the problem with distressing edges. It really does create an awful lot of paper dust. And now I'm going to mat this photo onto white card as well, just to mirror the photos on the left hand side. Love this offcut because it's got that border strip on the end. That's the branding strip, but on the reverse of the paper it has this lovely lace type effect. So just cutting the peach off to let the blue and pink shine. And that's the beginning of the mat for that right hand side. Now this mat will be much smaller and less elaborate than the left hand side, because I want to show off this photo of what Sue made. But a few things will be added. So now I'm going to come in with my mixed media, and I'm starting off with this Tim Holtz mask stencil. So I'm just drawing roughly around the edges of this photo mat so I can see where it goes, and then I can add the diamond shapes in. And I'm going to use Uncharted Mariner to do this. It's a nice blue that blends nicely with the colours that I've got in the photos and in these papers. So just using my domed blending tool, and it's a great layering stencil. So you'll see I'll start off by adding these diamond shapes, and then you can reposition, and in the middle of the circles it has a very faint line of the diamond shape, and if you reposition it you can add like a double effect. So I don't want to go straight the way across. You can see there where I've repositioned. I'm trying to put them in random places and varying depths of colour as well. So I need to bring, you can see I need to bring them a bit further across the page. So just, it's a great stencil for repositioning and then adding, and I shall keep checking and adding until I'm happy with the positioning of all these diamonds. Now I know that's not the end. I want to bring in some more colours, and it's a little bit too uniform for me, so I'm definitely going to water things down. But it's a really good start to this base. And that Uncharted Mariner colour works beautifully with these papers. So nearly there now. Just a couple more. And I've not re-inked, I'm just using the ink that's left on the dauber, and also the ink that's on the stencil, because that blends on down into the bits that you're using. And there, I'm happy with that placement now. And now things start getting messy. So starting with tea dye and dried marigold, I'm going to add some orangey peach into the mix. So I start off by watering down these diamonds, and then I'm going to flick the colour on to the paper just to get it distributed around the page before I go in with some more water and blend it out like a watercolour. Just shielding my photo there so I don't get all the splats on that. So you can see now I'm just starting to blend those, using some extra water, blend those splashes. together to create a watercolour effect. Also paying attention to this left-hand piece that will go behind the photo mat. So while I leave that to dry, I'm going to start building up this photo mat on the right-hand photo. So this was the mat that I'd created before, so just distressing the edges, and then that will go down. And now finding some other pieces to go behind it. Now I toy with the idea of cutting that butterfly out, but I decided against it in the end. I just want to strip behind. So very roughly, like I say, I've said before, no measuring, I just do all this by eye. And then sticking everything down as I go. So that's the first layer. And then I'm just looking through what else I've got in as scraps. And of course the piece that I've just cut off, the reverse side, is this gorgeous pink. So that gets added. Just working out exactly where. And just roughing up those edges again to show the colours a little bit more. And now I'm going to come in with the ephemera pieces and just see if there's anything else that I can add and bring in some more of those colours. I want to bring in a bit more of the green. I like this floral tag, but I think it takes away from the photo a little bit too much, so I do change that. I'm just bringing in the other piece to check the colours, and I see this tab, and I think that'll be perfect to add the date. And this is what I used to hide that end of that peach paper. I really wasn't happy with the blockiness of that, but that just blends it in to the rest of the strips nicely. And now building up this piece on the right. I think I'm going to add the red, but then I spot the green one in the pile. So that gets added. And then I find this black and white ticket and decide to add that to the main photo mat as well. And this piece that just says, "This is the day." This was booked about a year ago, and it was a class that my friend Julie was supposed to be coming on, but she'd managed to double book herself as well. So that's why Sue came, but it was the perfect 80th birthday present for her. So it all worked out well in the end, and Julie and I will go to another class another day. So just looking through to see what else. As I say, I felt that tag was a little bit too busy with all the florals on it, so I swapped that out for this pale blue one. And glue that down. And I think that's pretty much it for these mats. So just adding some thread. This is a grey linen thread that I've got. And then tidying up. Look at me, tidying up. I'm trying to be better at that, but you can see the cluster of everything I've got to the left-hand side of me. So still just having a last play with that tag, but it's definitely not right, so that goes. I want to add another something to the top, but again, that ticket wasn't quite right for me. So now this is almost dry. I'm just having a look, and I realise that the mixed media doesn't have much green in. Well, it doesn't have any green in, look. And I want to bring some of that green in. So I bring in my mowed lawn, and I'm not going to add too much, just a small amount to blend in with those other colours. So the same as before, I'm just splattering them on and then blending them out into the other colours. Because the other colours have had a chance to dry, this layers really nicely over the top. A little bit to the left hand side, and that's pretty much it. I don't want to add too much, like I say, but that really brings in that vibrant bright green. So I went through while that was drying the laser cut pieces and just found a couple of extra bits to add. That stamp at the top that says lovely, this piece that says this day on that right hand side, and then at the bottom this leaf, because I don't know whether you noticed when I was dusting off the page, I managed to smudge a splatter of the peachy orange colour, and I wasn't happy, but the laser cut leaf covers that really nicely, and it looks like part of the layout, so that was fine. You can see I'm just popping it down over the top of that smudge. So just gluing everything down now. While I'm doing that, please do go down below and check the description box to see the playlist of everybody else joining in on this hop. And if you like what you see, I'd love it if you give me a like and subscribe to my channel. I really enjoy doing these videos, and it's great to see the numbers ticking up as people start to follow me. It's really encouraging. Do chat in the comments box if you have anything to say or want to ask me any questions. I'd love to hear from you. And that's it. So just adding the date stamp here to that tab there, and then I'm going to add the title in the middle of the page. Now I've reached for some really old Scenic Route alphabet stickers, and I'm just going to put shed 76.5, which is where we were. It's Anne Brooks. She holds some lovely workshops in her shed attached to her house in Huddersfield, and we really enjoy going up there. It's only about an hour away from us here, so it's perfect. So now the journaling. Well, first of all, I'm going to add a subtitle which just says a Liz Cooksey Workshop, and then the journaling will go below that photo on the right hand side, and it just reads, "It was so much fun inviting Sue to join me, Amelia and Mum for the workshop hosted by Hannah Maid as her early 80th birthday present. Her finished piece was bright and fun and she thoroughly enjoyed it." So when I added that journaling, I knew that I wanted something else in the bottom right hand corner. It just felt a little bit empty. So I'm playing around with different pieces, and then first of all I think there's flower, but it's not quite right, and then I remember the rub-ons. So I just add a few of the splattery bits to the bottom, and then that strip that says all good things, and that's perfect. Really, really happy with the way that finishes the layout off. And that's pretty much it. So I leave you to watch me struggling a little bit with these rub-ons because I was too lazy to cut them off the sheet, but they are fantastic and they do pull off fine. It didn't add any more rub-ons anywhere else on the layout, and I'll have some close-ups at the end. Thank you so much for joining me, and I shall see you tomorrow for another video. Bye.